come to my cellar and you can be part of my show.
Creepypasta have long since been a staple of the internet's darkest corners. Here are what I believe to be 9 of the most depraved and horrific creepypasta ever created. Slender Man is a fictional character that originated as an internet challenge and developed into a widespread creepypasta figure. He is commonly depicted as an abnormally tall, thin humanoid figure wearing a black suit with a white shirt and tie. His most distinguishing feature is the absence of facial features, having a blank, smooth face. In various representations, he is said to have tentacle-like appendages extending from his back, although this detail varies across interpretations. The character was first introduced on June 10, 2009, on the internet forum Something Awful. The forum had initiated a contest in which users were encouraged to edit photographs to appear paranormal or disturbing and then accompany them with fictional backstories. A user named Victor Surge submitted 2 black and white photographs of children with a tall, faceless figure standing in the background. The accompanying text described mysterious disappearances of children, with implications that the figure, later identified as Slender Man, was involved. Following the initial post, the Slender Man character rapidly spread across multiple internet platforms. Other users contributed their own stories, images, and interpretations, leading to the development of a collaborative mythos. These stories became collectively known as creepypasta, a term used to describe short horror stories shared online. Unlike static literary characters, Slender Man's characteristics, behaviors, and motives evolved based on contributions from different creators, making him a fluid and adaptable figure in internet folklore. The general attributes attributed to Slender Man include silent stalking, causing memory loss, inducing paranoia, and leading individuals, often children or adolescents, into forests or secluded areas. The mythos suggests that Slender Man can interfere with electronic equipment, especially cameras and recording devices, often causing static or distortion. In most accounts, he does not communicate verbally, and his intentions are unclear. He is not usually depicted as physically violent, but instead as a manipulative presence that leads victims to mental instability or disappearance. Slender Man's story was further expanded through various multimedia projects. One of the most influential was the YouTube web series Marble Hornets, launched in 2009. This series, structured in a found footage style, introduced a version of the character known as the Operator, which closely resembled Slender Man. The series contributed significantly to the popularization of the character and its association with psychological horror. Additional series and projects, including Tribe 12, Everyman Hybrid, and Dark Harvest Arrow Zero, continued to build on the mythos through videos and alternate reality game elements. The character's popularity also extended into video games. One of the most notable is Slender, The 8 Pages, a free-to-play indie horror game released in 2012. In this game, players are tasked with collecting 8 scattered pages in a dark forest while being pursued by Slender Man. The game was praised for its minimalist design and atmosphere, and it gained widespread attention through Let's Play videos on YouTube. A sequel, Slender: The Arrival, was released in 2013 with an expanded storyline and updated graphics. Slender Man's widespread recognition culminated in significant mainstream media attention in 2014 due to a violent incident in Waukesha, Wisconsin. 2 12-year-old girls lured a classmate into the woods and stabbed her 19 times, later claiming they did so to appease Slender Man and become his proxies. The victim survived the attack. The incident led to national and international discussions regarding the influence of internet fiction on young individuals and raised concerns about the potential psychological effects of immersive online narratives. The event also prompted several websites to reevaluate how creepypasta content was hosted and presented. Despite the controversy, Slender Man remains a prominent example of digital folklore. He has been the subject of books, documentaries, and a feature film released in 2018 titled Slender Man. The film attempted to present a fictional narrative based on the character, but received negative critical reception and public backlash due to its perceived insensitivity toward the real-life stabbing incident. Slender Man's cultural significance lies in his role as a collaboratively constructed figure. Unlike traditional literary or mythological characters created by a single author or cultural source, Slender Man evolved through decentralized contributions. He represents a new form of myth-making facilitated by the internet, where anonymous creators across the world participate in developing a shared narrative. From an academic perspective, Slender Man has been analyzed as a digital age urban legend. Scholars have compared his mythos to earlier folklore traditions, noting similarities with figures such as the Pied Piper, the Bogeyman, or the shadowy forest entities of various cultures. However, unlike historical myths, the development and dissemination of Slender Man occurred in real time, observable through online forums, videos, and social media interactions. Jeff the Killer is a fictional character that originated from online horror fiction, specifically within the internet community known as CREEPYPASTA. Jeff the Killer is one of the most widely recognized characters within this genre. His story, visual representation, and popularity have been the subjects of internet discussions, adaptations, and controversies since the early 2010s. The character is primarily known for his pale face, lack of eyelids, long black hair, and a wide, permanent smile. The most common image associated with Jeff the Killer features a distorted face with wide eyes and an unnatural grin. The origin of this image is debated. Some sources claim that the image was edited from a photograph of a girl taken from a video, while others claim it was altered from various base images on early forums. The exact source of the image remains unclear, but it has become the visual identity of the character across most online depictions. The most widely circulated version of Jeff the Killer's backstory was published in 2011 on the Creepypasta wiki. The story centers on a teenage boy named Jeff, who after moving to a new neighborhood with his family, becomes involved in a series of violent encounters. According to the narrative, Jeff and his brother Liu are harassed by bullies. Jeff violently defends himself, which initiates a series of events involving police investigations and further violence. In the story, Jeff eventually suffers severe injuries during a confrontation where he is burned with bleach and alcohol, resulting in his face being disfigured. After the incident, Jeff is described as having lost his sanity. He carves a smile into his cheeks and burns off his eyelids so that he can never stop smiling or close his eyes. The story ends with Jeff murdering his family and disappearing. The phrase "go to sleep" is repeatedly associated with Jeff in the narrative and in derivative content, often depicted as the last thing victims hear before being attacked. The story of Jeff the Killer has undergone numerous revisions, rewrites, and fan-made editions. Multiple versions exist, each varying in detail but typically retaining core elements such as the disfigurement, the descent into violence, and the murder of his family. Some versions focus more heavily on psychological elements, while others emphasize the supernatural or slasher-style aspects. The popularity of Jeff the Killer increased significantly due to the viral nature of the image and story across platforms such as YouTube, DeviantArt, Reddit, and Tumblr. Numerous fan animations, voice narrations, sequels, and spin-offs have been created. Jeff the Killer is often featured alongside other creepypasta characters such as Slender Man, Eyeless Jack, Ben Drowned, and Laughing Jack in fan fiction and crossover stories. Despite its popularity, the story has received criticism regarding its writing quality, logical inconsistencies, and plot development. Many readers have pointed out the unrealistic behavior of the characters, the lack of coherent motivation, and the abrupt shift from ordinary life to murder and insanity. However, the character's impact on internet horror culture has remained significant due to its memorability and the adaptability of the visual and narrative concept. There has been some controversy regarding the origin of the Jeff the Killer character and story. Before the 2011 story posted on the Creepypasta wiki, earlier references to similar characters appeared on platforms like Newgrounds and YouTube as early as 2008. The image now widely associated with Jeff the Killer may have existed before the popular story was published, but the connections between these early references and the later fully developed narrative remain speculative and unverified. In addition to the main story, there are numerous fan-created origin stories, continuations, and alternate timelines involving Jeff the Killer. Some versions attempt to expand upon his background, including explanations for his psychological condition, details about his family life, or his experiences before becoming a killer. Other adaptations portray him as an anti-hero, vigilante, or supernatural being. These reinterpretations are part of the larger participatory culture surrounding creepypasta characters, where users are encouraged to build upon existing lore. The Russian sleep experiment is a fictional horror story originating from the online creepypasta community. Though often mistaken for an actual historical event, the story is entirely fictional and has no verified basis in real-world scientific or military documentation. The narrative describes a supposed Soviet-era experiment conducted in the late 1940s by Russian researchers. According to the story, the objective of the experiment was to test the effects of prolonged sleep deprivation on human subjects using a specially formulated gas that would prevent them from sleeping. The alleged purpose was to study the effects on mental and physical health in an effort to improve military endurance and performance. The experiment allegedly involved 5 test subjects who were political prisoners or prisoners of war during the post-World War II period. These individuals were kept in a sealed environment with continuous administration of the sleep-inhibiting gas. The environment was monitored through microphones and portholes, but did not include direct physical interaction after the gas was introduced. During the initial days of the experiment, the subjects reportedly behaved normally, engaging in conversation and whispering to researchers through the microphones. However, as the deprivation extended beyond several days, behavioral changes were described. The story claims that by the 5th day, the subjects began to exhibit signs of severe psychological distress, including paranoia, self-mutilation, and irrational behavior. It further describes the subjects tearing pages from books, smearing feces on observation windows, and engaging in violent acts toward themselves and each other. By the 9th day, communication with the subjects allegedly ceased, and when researchers entered the chamber on the 15th day, they found that one of the subjects had died and others had suffered extreme injuries. They were described as self-inflicted and included evisceration and organ exposure, supposedly without pain response. According to the narrative, the remaining subjects expressed an intense desire to remain awake and resisted attempts to sedate or remove them from the gas chamber. The story includes details such as medical examinations revealing abnormal strength, refusal to eat food, and altered physiological responses. One subject reportedly died from a ruptured spleen after an attempt to sedate him. Another was said to have suffered cardiac arrest. The final surviving subject allegedly provided a statement before being executed or euthanized, depending on the version of the story. The final line is often cited as the subject saying, "Have you forgotten so easily? We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all." The Russian sleep experiment was first posted in 2010 on the Creepypasta wiki. It has been shared widely across forums, websites, YouTube videos, and social media platforms. Its popularity is largely due to the graphic and unsettling nature of its descriptions, the pseudoscientific framing of the narrative, and the incorporation of Cold War-era themes. No historical documentation supports the existence of such an experiment, and no scientific evidence supports the effects described in the story. The gas mentioned in the story is not identified by name, and no known chemical agent is capable of producing the effects claimed while maintaining full consciousness and self-awareness in subjects for more than a few days. From a physiological standpoint, total sleep deprivation over extended periods leads to cognitive impairment, hallucinations, and eventual death in both humans and animals, but not in the way described in the narrative. Laboratory studies have shown that complete sleep deprivation for 72 to 96 hours causes significant psychological and physical stress, including microsleeps and inability to perform basic tasks. The image most commonly associated with the story, a disfigured figure with wide eyes and a mutilated mouth, has been confirmed to be unrelated to any actual experiment. It is believed to be an edited or manipulated photograph, possibly originating from a Halloween mask or medical training dummy. Despite this, the image has become closely associated with the creepypasta and is frequently used in visual media representations of the story. Numerous adaptations and interpretations have been produced based on the original story. These include short films, fan fiction, dramatic readings, and animations. The story has also been the subject of discussions in online horror forums and YouTube horror analysis channels. Some creators have expanded the lore by including fictional documents, lab reports, or testimonies to give the appearance of authenticity. The SCP Foundation is a collaborative fiction project that originated online and centers on the containment of anomalous objects, entities, and phenomena. SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect, which is the fictional organization's motto and central mission. The project began in 2007 on the 4chan AX Paranormal board with the posting of SCP-173, the first SCP entry, and later migrated to a dedicated wiki site, scp.wiki.com. The site serves as the primary platform for submissions and community collaboration. The SCP Foundation is presented as a secret global organization responsible for locating and containing entities or objects that defy natural laws. These include living creatures, inanimate objects, spatial anomalies, and abstract concepts. Each anomaly is assigned a unique identification number and a designation class, which reflects the difficulty of containment. The most common classification tiers are Safe, anomalies that can be easily and reliably contained. Euclid, anomalies that are unpredictable or require more complex containment procedures. Keter, anomalies that are highly dangerous or difficult to contain. Each SCP entry includes a standardized format, an item number, object class, containment procedures, and a detailed description of the anomaly. Additional sections may include experiment logs, interviews, or incident reports, depending on the complexity of the SCP entry. Entries are written in a clinical, bureaucratic tone to mimic real-world scientific or military documents. In-universe, the Foundation operates through a hierarchical structure, including scientists, field agents, security personnel, and specialized task forces. Class designations for personnel include Class A through Class E, and D-Class personnel, often convicted criminals, are used in tests involving high-risk anomalies. The SCP Foundation also includes recurring themes such as memetic hazards, cognitohazards, anomalous languages, alternate dimensions, and secret societies. The fictional setting has expanded to include multiple canons, which are narrative clusters sharing thematic or story elements. These canons are used to tell longer-form stories or to explore different interpretations of the Foundation's world. The site allows for open contributions but maintains a strict moderation and voting system. Articles that fall below a community set score threshold may be deleted. This quality control has contributed to a large volume of entries with varied tone, content, and complexity. Some entries emphasize horror, others focus on science fiction, satire, or mystery. The SCP Foundation has been the basis for numerous fan-made adaptations, including video games, such as SCP, Containment Breach, short films, podcasts, and literature. It is often considered part of internet horror culture, but also incorporates science fiction and speculative fiction elements. The project is a notable example of decentralized world building and collaborative storytelling. As of the mid-2020s, the SCP Wiki hosts thousands of SCP entries and accompanying tales, with a global contributor base. The project continues to evolve through community input, contests, and editorial oversight. The Rake is a fictional creature often portrayed as a humanoid entity with animalistic and predatory features. The character gained popularity in the mid-2000s through collaborative storytelling and user-submitted horror content. The first known reference to the Rake appeared on the Something Awful forums in 2005 as part of a thread encouraging users to create new cryptids or urban legends. The goal was to build a modern myth using online collaboration. Following its initial mention, several users contributed to fleshing out the creature's appearance, behavior, and associated stories. The Rake became more widely known after being featured in creepypasta websites, fanfiction platforms, and YouTube narration videos. It has since become a recognizable figure in online horror culture, similar to other entities like Slender Man and Jeff the Killer. Descriptions of the Rake vary slightly but share several common features. The creature is typically described as pale, hairless, and emaciated, with elongated limbs and large eyes. It is usually depicted as humanoid, but with bestial posture and movement. The Rake is often shown crawling or crouching, sometimes with clawed hands or feet, and is most active at night. No definitive origin or habitat is assigned to the creature, and it is generally portrayed as an anomaly that appears suddenly and without explanation. One of the most circulated narratives involving the Rake is a collection of fictional documents, including journal entries, witness reports, and recovered accounts. The stories portray the creature as appearing in people's bedrooms at night, observing them while they sleep, and sometimes speaking in whispers. Victims often describe a sense of overwhelming fear and dread. In several versions of the story, the Rake physically attacks the victims and disappears before help can arrive. A frequently cited story involves a man who claims his daughter was killed by the Rake after it appeared in their home. His account includes references to waking in the night, encountering the creature at the foot of his bed, and witnessing the aftermath of a violent attack. This narrative is structured in a pseudo-documentary style and includes references to others who have reportedly encountered the same being in different locations and times. The Rake has appeared in several forms of media beyond text-based stories. Indie horror games have featured the creature as a central antagonist. Horror videos on platforms such as YouTube often depict the Rake in found footage or documentary-style formats. It is also common in creepypasta fan art and digital storytelling communities. Its design and ambiguous origin contribute to its adaptability in different media formats. There is no verified evidence that the Rake is based on any pre-existing cryptid, urban legend, or historical account. All known references trace back to internet fiction written post-2005. Despite this, the character has been mistaken by some readers as having folkloric roots due to the style in which its stories are presented. "1999" is a creepypasta story that originated on the internet and is centered around a fictional public access television channel known as Caledon Local 21. The story is presented as a series of blog-style entries written by a narrator named Elliot. The setting takes place in Caledon, Ontario, a real town in Canada, but all events and characters described in the story are fictional. The narrative is structured as a personal investigation into disturbing events that allegedly took place during the narrator's childhood in 1999. The story begins with Elliot recounting how, as a child, he became interested in a local television channel that aired strange and unsettling programming. The channel, referred to as Caledon Local 21, was said to have been broadcast over analog signal and featured low-budget children's content. According to Elliot, the channel was not officially listed and was found through signal searching. Several programs are mentioned by name, including Booby, Mr. Bear's Cellar, and Shy Noodles. Each of these shows is described as having inappropriate or disturbing content under the guise of children's entertainment. For example, Mr. Bear's Cellar features a man in a bear costume who invites children to his basement, a location implied to be unsafe. The content allegedly becomes darker as the story progresses, with implications of child abduction and abuse. The narrator describes becoming uneasy with the programming and eventually stopping watching the channel. Years later, Elliot claims he began researching the channel and what may have happened behind the scenes. Through his investigation, he allegedly uncovers connections between Caledon Local 21 and criminal activities, particularly child exploitation. A figure known as Mr. Bear is repeatedly referenced as a key individual associated with the shows and the alleged crimes. The story suggests Mr. Bear was responsible for luring children and may have been arrested at some point, though these events are fictional and never documented in real life. As the investigation continues, Elliot claims to contact local police, search public records, and communicate with others who may have remembered the channel. Throughout the blog entries, he includes photos, supposed scanned documents, and personal reflections. The overall arc of the narrative follows his effort to uncover the truth about the channel and the individual or group behind it. The creepypasta is notable for its use of realism and its structure as a serialized personal account, which contributed to its credibility for some readers. The inclusion of a real-world location and a plausible format, public access television, helps create a sense of authenticity. However, no evidence exists that Caledon Local 21 ever aired, and no police reports or legal records have ever confirmed any of the events described in the story. 1999 gained popularity on forums such as Reddit, 4chan, and creepypasta-focused websites in the early 2010s. It has been referenced in YouTube readings, podcast discussions, and fan-made video adaptations. Some versions include extended narratives or alternate interpretations of the original blog entries. The author of 1999 remains anonymous or pseudonymous, and the story is considered a work of fiction. Its format has influenced later creepypasta stories that use blog entries, recovered footage, and fictional investigations to develop their plots. Although 1999 is not among the earliest creepypastas, it is recognized for its psychological horror themes and disturbing subject matter presented through a seemingly innocent medium. The Anansi's Goatman story is a well-known creepypasta originating from the online forum 4chan, specifically from its paranormal board, Xe. The story was posted in 2012 by an anonymous user who used the pseudonym EnoAnon. The narrative is presented in a first-person format and is structured as a personal recounting of a disturbing encounter with a creature in the woods of Alabama. The story's name references the mythical figure Anansi from West African folklore, although there is no direct connection between the Anansi of mythology and the creature described in the story. The title is derived from the user's own formatting and storytelling approach and does not indicate a literal mythological link. The creature itself is referred to in the story as a goat man, a term commonly used in cryptid lore to describe part human, part animal entities. In the story, the narrator describes visiting family in Alabama and going on a camping trip with a group of cousins and friends. The group camps in a rural area near a forest. Over the course of the night, they begin to experience a series of unsettling events. These include strange noises, the smell of copper or blood, and a growing feeling of unease. The narrator and others notice that, at times, there seem to be more people in the group than they originally arrived with. Some individuals in the group exhibit odd behavior, appear in different locations without explanation, or act out of character. The creature, referred to as the Goat Man, is never fully seen or described in detail, but is implied to be capable of shape-shifting or mimicking human beings. The entity seems able to blend into the group by impersonating members, leading to confusion and fear among the campers. The idea that the group cannot determine exactly who is real and who is the imposter becomes the central source of tension in the story. The narrative employs a common horror device involving unreliable memory, fear of the unknown, and the breakdown of group trust. The atmosphere is built around confusion, paranoia, and the gradual realization that a non-human presence is among the group. The use of first-person, informal language and chatboard slang creates an impression of authenticity for readers familiar with online forum culture. The story ends with the narrator recounting the group's decision to leave the forest immediately after one of the friends becomes hysterical and claims to have seen the goatman. After returning to safety, the group does not fully discuss the events and avoids mentioning them again. The Anansi's Goatman story has become one of the more popular creepypasta stories shared on platforms like Reddit, YouTube, and dedicated horror fiction websites. It is often cited for its informal yet immersive narrative style and for popularizing the imposter horror trope in online fiction. It has been the basis for various adaptations, including short films, audio dramatizations, and animated readings. Although the Goatman is a recurring figure in North American folklore, particularly in rural legends from states like Maryland, Kentucky, and Texas, the creature in Anansi's Goatman story does not directly reference any specific version of the folklore. Instead, it draws loosely on the idea of a shape-shifting cryptid and combines it with elements of psychological horror. Psychosis is a psychological horror creepypasta story written by author Matt Dymersky. It was first published online in 2008 and gained popularity through forums, story aggregation sites, and creepypasta-focused communities. The story is recognized for its minimalistic approach and emphasis on mental deterioration rather than external supernatural elements. It is commonly cited as one of the most well-regarded psychological creepypastas due to its narrative structure, suspense, and ambiguity. The story is written in the first-person perspective and is presented as a series of journal-like entries from the narrator. The main character is an unnamed man who isolates himself in his apartment and begins documenting his thoughts and experiences. From the outset, the narrator expresses feelings of anxiety and suspicion toward the outside world. He reports changes in his perception of reality and starts to believe that something is wrong with either the world or his own mind. The story's central theme revolves around the breakdown of trust in reality. The narrator becomes increasingly paranoid, believing that people around him are being replaced or manipulated. He installs surveillance equipment and avoids using digital communication tools. He fears that technology, including televisions, phones, and the internet, is being used to spread false information or control people's thoughts. As the story progresses, the narrator reports more anomalies. He becomes convinced that whatever is happening is part of a large-scale manipulation or invasion. He starts to distrust even the most basic interactions, suspecting that anyone who communicates with him may no longer be human or real. He keeps himself isolated from all physical and digital contact, including shutting off the lights, sealing the windows, and refusing to leave his apartment. The climax of the story occurs when the narrator attempts to reconnect with the outside world. He receives messages from a friend named John, who tries to reassure him and convince him to leave his apartment. The narrator remains suspicious, believing that John may not be who he claims to be. In the final interaction, John knocks on the narrator's door, pleading with him to come out and claiming that he has been worried for weeks. The narrator hesitates, and the story ends ambiguously, with the reader left to question whether the narrator is experiencing a real threat or has succumbed to complete psychosis. Psychosis is often noted for its lack of a defined antagonist. Unlike other creepypasta stories that rely on supernatural creatures or physical threats, this story focuses on internal fear and mental instability. It does not provide confirmation as to whether the narrator's fears are justified or the result of a deteriorating mental state. This deliberate ambiguity is one of the reasons the story has remained a subject of discussion among readers. The story has been adapted into audio readings, short films, and animations by fans. It has also inspired discussions related to mental health, paranoia, and the reliability of perception. Though it uses fictional elements, Psychosis draws on real psychological concepts such as schizophrenia, delusional disorder, and isolation-induced anxiety. Matt Demersky, the author, has written several other stories in the horror and science fiction genres. Psychosis remains one of his most recognized works and has been featured in top-ranked creepypasta compilations and podcasts. It is typically presented as a standalone story and is not part of a larger universe or series. The Expressionless is a creepypasta story that originated online in the early 2010s. It is a fictional horror narrative often shared across social media platforms, storytelling forums, and websites dedicated to creepypasta and urban legends. The story is presented in a third-person, anecdotal format, describing a disturbing event that allegedly took place in a hospital in 1972. However, no verifiable evidence supports the existence of this event, and it is considered a work of fiction. The story centers on a woman who is brought into a hospital emergency room in a disoriented state. She is described as wearing a blood-stained white hospital gown and having an inhumanly smooth face. Her facial features are said to be so symmetrical and artificial-looking that hospital staff initially assume she is a mannequin. The most striking detail is her complete lack of facial expression, which leads to her being referred to as the Expressionless. According to the story, when the woman is examined, it becomes evident that she is a living being rather than a mannequin. She displays no response to external stimuli and remains completely silent, staring at the staff with a fixed gaze. As medical personnel attempt to treat and question her, she suddenly becomes violent. In the climactic portion of the story, she reportedly turns on the staff, attacking and killing at least one person while uttering her only line, "I am God." The story concludes with the woman disappearing or being unaccounted for, depending on the version. Some retellings include variations where she is sedated and never seen again, or where the hospital covers up the incident. These editions vary depending on the platform and storyteller, as the narrative has been circulated with minor changes across the internet. A notable feature associated with the Expressionless is an image that frequently accompanies the story. The photo shows a pale, mannequin-like figure with blank eyes and exaggerated facial features. This image is not from 1972, but is actually a prop or special effects model used in various artistic or horror-themed contexts. The photo has been traced to projects unrelated to the events described in the story, confirming that it was repurposed to enhance the visual impact of the fictional tale. The origin of the story appears to be a post on some forum, although it is difficult to attribute it to a specific author. As with many creepypastas, the narrative gained popularity through reblogs, shares, and readings on YouTube. The urban legend tone of the story mainly contributed to its viral nature. It is presented without disclaimers, which has led some readers to question whether the events might be based on true occurrences, though there is no documented evidence to support this. If you like this video, be sure to check out our others, and feel free to leave future video ideas down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell notification to get notified whenever we upload. See you later.